I want you to picture something for a minute, and I want you to picture it honestly. It's a Tuesday, about 6 years from now. Your son or your daughter is sitting at their kitchen table with a letter from a financial institution in front of them. And the letter is telling them that a deadline they didn't know existed is now 4 years away. Not a deadline you set. It's not a deadline anybody explained to them. It's a deadline written into federal law that started ticking the day you died. And by the time they understand it, a large piece of what you spent 40 years building has already gone somewhere other than to them. This is a rule almost nobody talks about while they're still alive to do something about it. And you are still alive. So let's do something about it. Because here at Retirementer TV, I believe the same thing every single day. The people who worked the hardest for their money should never be the ones who lose it to a rule nobody explained to them. And that goes double when the person losing it is your child. Before we go any further, tell me one thing in the comments. How many years has it been since you actually looked at the beneficiary form on your retirement account, not your will? The beneficiary form itself. Just type the number of years or type never, if that's the honest answer. I'm not asking to embarrass anybody. I'm asking because I want you to see how many other people are going to type the exact same thing you did. Quick honesty check before I go on. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not your financial advisor, and nothing in this video is legal or tax advice. It's education. Every rule I describe today comes from federal law and from the final regulations the IRS published, and my sources are in the description. But how these rules land on your family depends on your accounts, your ages, your state, and those are things only somebody looking at your actual paperwork can tell you. So take this as the list of questions to bring to that person. Here's what changed, and here's why your plan may be built on rules that no longer exist. For decades, if you left a retirement account to your child, they could stretch the withdrawals across their entire lifetime. People in the industry called it the stretch IRA. 50-year-old inheriting from a parent could pull a small amount out each year, let the rest keep growing, and spread the tax over 30 or 40 years. It was, by a wide margin, the most powerful way to hand money to the next generation. That is gone. A law passed in late 2019 ended it for most people. It applies to account owners who died after the end of 2019. And here's what replaced it. If your adult child inherits your retirement account, they generally have to empty the entire account by the end of the 10th year after your death. All of it, not stretched over their lifetime. 10 years. Now I need to be precise about something, because this is where a lot of online explanations get it wrong. For a while, everybody assumed the 10-year rule meant your child could simply wait and take everything out in year 10. That's not what the final regulations say. The IRS published its final rules in July of 2024, and they took effect at the start of 2025. And they draw a line based on one thing: whether you had already started taking your own required withdrawals before you died. If you died before you were required to start taking withdrawals from that account, your child has flexibility. They can take money out whenever they like across those 10 years, or take nothing until year 10, as long as the account is empty by the end. But if you died on or after the date your own required withdrawals had begun, it's different. Then your child must take a withdrawal every single year, in years 1 through 9, based on their own life expectancy. And then empty whatever is left in year 10, so it isn't one 10-year rule. It's two versions of it, and which one your family gets depends on your age at death. That is not something most families discover until they are already inside the deadline. Let me put a number on this, because 10 years sounds generous until you see what it does to the tax bill. And I want to be clear that the family I'm about to describe is an illustration I built to show the math, not a real client. The rules and the tax brackets are real. People are not. Picture a daughter, age 52, who works as a school administrator and earns about $90,000 a year. She inherits a $400,000 traditional IRA from her father. Under the old stretch rules, she would have taken maybe $11,000 or $12,000 a year. That amount sits quietly on top of her salary and barely moves her tax situation. Under the 10-year rule, she has to move $400,000 out in a decade. She spreads it evenly. That's $40,000 a year of extra taxable income, on top of her $90,000 salary, every year for 10 years. That pushes her into a higher marginal bracket during what are very likely her highest earning years. And every dollar of a traditional IRA withdrawal is ordinary income, not capital gains. Ordinary income, at her working life tax rate, Now here's the version that actually happens more often, and it's worse. She doesn't spread it evenly, because nobody told her she should. She takes a little here and there, forgets about it, and then realizes in year 9 that most of the account is still sitting there. So she pulls out $200,000 or $300,000 in a single tax year. That one withdrawal can push her near the top of the federal brackets, raise her state tax, and touch things she never connected to an inheritance. The exact loss depends on her state, her deductions, and her filing status. So I'm not going to hand you a single dramatic figure and pretend it applies to everybody, but I'll tell you the direction honestly. The difference between a withdrawal that was planned across 10 years and one that got crammed into 1 year is very often tens of thousands of dollars. On the same inheritance, from the same account, the money didn't disappear. It just went to the IRS instead of to your daughter because of the order she took it out in. Let's pause there for a second. If you have adult children, type the word planning in the comments. If your beneficiaries are grandchildren, type grandkids. And if you're watching this thinking, my spouse is my beneficiary, so this doesn't apply to me, type spouse, because you're going to want to hear the next part specifically. Now the good news, and there genuinely is some, the 10-year rule does not apply to everyone. Federal law carves out a group called eligible designated beneficiaries. And if your beneficiary is in that group, they may still be able to stretch withdrawals over their lifetime. There are 5 categories. The first is your surviving spouse. This is the big one, and it's why the answer for most married couples is straightforward. A surviving spouse is not subject to the 10-year clean-out at all. They have options a child does not have, including treating the account as their own. The second is your minor child. And read the fine print on this one because it's narrower than people expect. It applies to your own minor child, and the stretch only lasts until they reach the age of majority. At that point, the 10-year clock starts, so it delays the rule. It doesn't cancel it. And it's your child, specifically a minor grandchild, does not qualify here. The third is a beneficiary who is disabled, as federal law defines it. The fourth is a beneficiary who is chronically ill. Both of these have specific legal definitions and require documentation, so this is not a category anybody should assume they fit into without professional guidance. The fifth is a beneficiary who is less than 10 years younger than you. Think a sibling close to your age, or a partner near your own age? That's the whole list. And notice who is not on it. Your healthy adult son, your healthy adult daughter, your grandchildren. For most families watching this video, the people you most want to leave money to are exactly the people the 10-year rule applies to. There's one more thing I have to tell you, and this is the part that turns a tax problem into a real loss. There is a penalty for missing one of those required annual withdrawals. The excise tax on a missed required withdrawal is 25% of the amount that should have come out. It drops to 10% if it gets corrected within 2 years using the right IRS form. And for the first few years after the law changed, the IRS waived penalties while everybody figured out the rules. That grace period is over. Enforcement started with the 2025 tax year, so think about what that means practically. Your child inherits an account. Nobody tells them they're in the version of the rule that requires a withdrawal every year. They miss one. There's a penalty on top of the tax, on money they didn't know they were supposed to touch. That is not a story about somebody being careless. That's a story about somebody never being told. There's one more trap, and it's the one I want you to check tonight. If your retirement account has no living beneficiary named on it, or if the form names your estate, the outcome gets worse, not neutral. When there's no designated beneficiary, the account generally has to come out much faster than 10 years. A 5-year window is common in that situation. It's 5 years instead of 10. On the same money, with the same tax bill compressed into half the time, and here's the thing people find hardest to believe. Your will does not fix this. Retirement accounts do not pass through your will. They pass by the beneficiary form held at the institution. You can have a beautifully drafted will, prepared by a good attorney, that says exactly who gets what, and it will not override a beneficiary form. The form wins. Every time. So if the form is blank, or outdated, or names somebody from a previous chapter of your life, that is what controls the money, not the document in your filing cabinet. So which one of these is you? Type 1 if your spouse is your beneficiary. Type 2 if it's an adult child. Type 3 if you genuinely are not sure what the form says right now. No wrong answers, and 3 is a very common answer. All right. Here's what I actually want you to do, and it is 3 steps, and none of them cost money. Step 1. Pull up the beneficiary designation on every retirement account you own. Everyone, the old employer plan you rolled over and forgot about, the small account from a job you had in the 90s, log in or call the institution and ask them to read you exactly what's on file. You're checking 3 things. Is there a primary beneficiary named? Is there a contingent beneficiary named? And are both of those still the people you'd actually choose today? The contingent one matters more than people think. That's who receives it if your primary beneficiary dies before you do. In a blank contingent line is one of the most common ways an account ends up with no designated beneficiary at all. Step 2. Tell your beneficiaries that this rule exists. That's it. Just tell them. You don't have to share balances if that's not how your family operates. You can simply say, when you inherit this account. There's a 10-year deadline and possibly an annual withdrawal requirement, and you need to ask a tax professional how to spread it out. That one sentence said while you're alive is worth more than almost anything else in this video. Because the 10-year rule doesn't destroy inheritances on its own. It destroys them when nobody plans for them. Step 3. If your accounts are large, or your situation has any complexity to it, a blended family, it's a child with special needs, a trust already in place, this is the point to bring in a professional. Not because I'm trying to hand you off. Because the strategies that actually reduce these things, like Roth conversions during your lower income years, or naming beneficiaries across accounts differently, or charitable strategies genuinely depend on your numbers. Anybody who gives you a one-size answer to that on the internet is guessing. Let me put it all together. The stretch IRA is gone for most beneficiaries. Adult children generally have 10 years to empty an inherited retirement account. And depending on whether you had started your own required withdrawals, they may also owe a withdrawal every single year along the way. Missing one of those carries a penalty of 25%, reduced to 10% if corrected in time, and the grace period ended with the 2025 tax year. Spouses, minor children, disabled and chronically ill beneficiaries. And anyone less than 10 years younger than you are treated differently. And if no living beneficiary is named, the money may have to come out even faster than 10 years. Here's the thought I want to leave you with. Nobody's going to notice this on your behalf. It's not the institution holding your account. They will process whatever form they have on file exactly as written, without a phone call. The one thing I'm asking you to do today is small. Go look at one form, just one the largest retirement account you own. Look at the beneficiary line and ask yourself whether the name on it is still right and whether that person has any idea what's coming. If it's wrong, changing it is usually a short form and a signature, not a lawyer. Not a fee, a form. And if you found this useful, subscribe not as a favor to me, but because these rules keep changing and the 2024 final regulations are proof of that. The next change is coming whether or not anybody tells you. I'd rather you heard it here first. Take good care of yourself and go look at that form tonight, because at Retirement or TV, we don't just plan for retirement, we protect it. I'll see you in the next one.